So here we are, part 2 of my BMW E92 budget track car, very much budget track car build. Well, budget in respect of trying to create something that a lot more money would normally create. But on we go. So today I'm going to update the front suspension, going to make it adjustable, probably going to play around with definitely going to play around with the camber, probably going to play around with the caster too. So what I'm looking at right this minute is doing my DIY polybushing with my torsion arms at the front suspension. These are the arms that control the front wheels under braking. The original ones that come with the car are on the standard E92 to oil filled, very squishy, makes the car scream around when braking. If you're familiar with the E92 and you're familiar with modifying them, you'll know all that already. So there's several options with the E92s, with the front bushers, straightforward poly bushers. I think it's Benzie do some nice monobolt ones, which are quite like look at and not too expensive. Downside, I thought they might be a bit harsh vibration wise. Maybe no more harsh than polybush. We'll see. The biggest thing that I did want though was to have them offset, because I'm going to alter the track. When you increase the track, it's going to keep the standard length traction arm. It will pull the wheel forward slightly, and that will alter the caster. And I wanted to try and I want to have control over my caster. Everything I'm reading, casters can really help with your dynamic camber when you go into the turns. So I'll have a look at the actual practicalities of what I'm doing here. So if you look here, you'll see I have I bought some polybush, nylon polybush. And the beauty of this is it's 65mm in diameter, which means you don't have to machine it outside for it to fit perfectly into the bush. So this is one I made earlier. As you can see, I've not drilled the offset yet. The offset I'll have to work out when I get on the car. So that's kind of ready to fit. Work out where the offset's going to be, and we'll go from there. So as you might notice, circular saw here. Circular saw is great for cutting this stuff, and what I'm now going to do is drop this in the vise, and just going to going to drop this in the lathe and just turn the ends up to make them nice and neat, get rid of all this horribleness, turn them and turn it down to desired width, which is 55mm. Okay, so here we go. Saxo there. Here's a link to the monoball front suspension bushers that are fitted. I have to say I was impressed with the quality. It's in good quality, easy to fit, no issues, and they haven't increased the noise, harsh or vibration by any appreciable amount. So happy with those. Goodbye. So here we are, beautiful April's evening in southwest Scotland. So beautiful, but I've put the car out the garage today to work in the sunshine. So the problem we had in our first track day at Blyton Park, if we look down to the suspension here, you may just see here, look, this suspension strut slid down into the housing, and this stop here bent round, so that's currently set at the right height compared to the other one from here to here. That left the tyre to come into contact here with the spring platform, Very, very lucky we didn't have a blowout. The question is why. I'm not sure. I was hitting the curbs pretty hard. Whether that's bent this round, but I think the problem might have stemmed from I hit a pothole, or two potholes in fact, in the weeks preceding. And I think that might just start to bend this here, and then once that starts to bend, obviously repeated blows going around the curves push this in. We knew it was clear when we put the tyres on because we spun the tyres, so we knew that that was clear here onto the platform. Although it did seem a bit nearer this side and the other side. So yeah, so these are standard motorsport shocks. We've gone for a set of these PI shocks. These are 200 quid for the pair. It's about half the price of some Bilstein B6s or similar. But they do have shortened rods in to allow for lower suspension. So I'm running about 30mm lower at the minute on the E92 with the Ebex springs on. I think these can take up to 60mm lower without the rod bottoming. So I'm hopefully fitting those for our next session. We'll be able to ride the curb pretty hard and not have any issues. So here we go, we'll fit these and see how they go. So here we are. We have the shock absorber fitted. There you go. So yeah, the PI shock absorber fitted, spring in place. As we look down here, see right in the corner there, you can just see the Bevan C monoball front traction arm bush in there, and a little red poly bush for the anti-roll bar bushers. Look along here, I have a Stance anti-roll bar drop link. Yeah, so of course calipers could do with a bit of clean. Looking on to the shock absorbers, I think as previously mentioned, they'd worn 2mm, that pad had 6,000 miles, 130 miles on the track, and I don't know, you quite see here my adjustment stands. They actually come off Alibaba, no, Timu adjustment stands, so they seem to work pretty well. So they're pretty good for setting up the camber and the track and even the caster. But I'll do another video on that, as I've got my own DIY homemade laser four-wheel alignment kit. One for another day. So at the minute, yeah, that's the shock absorber in place and the suspension mods on the front. We have adjustable, just see right up top there, some of my homemade adjustable camber plates. Here's an aftermath of the tyre after making contact with the top of the suspension. You can see the cores are exposed, and we were really lucky considering we were doing 100mph plus down the back straight. If we'd had a blown out, the consequences could have been quite frightening. Here's also a photo of the tyre before it made contact with the suspension. Here's a link to the front PI shock absorbers that I fitted. I had read online that some people found them quite harsh for normal road use, but to be honest with you, that's not what I found. I was quite happy with them. Don't seem too harsh to me. How they perform on the track, we'll have to wait and see. Because I'm running slick tyres on the car, I knew I'd need to run at least 3 degrees no camber. For that end, I looked to purchase some adjustable top mounting plates. I couldn't find anything really that suited the standard suspension. There's plenty out there if you've got coilovers, but I wasn't running coilovers, so they didn't really work. The only thing I could find was this fixed plate, which I thought for over £200 was quite expensive for what it was. Therefore, I did what you'd probably expect me to do and decided to build my own adjustable top suspension mounts. To make my own top mounts, I first purchased some adjustable mountings for an E46. I knew the PDC of the top 3 mounting bolts were the same for a E46 and an E90. However, what I didn't realise is that the orientation of the bolts is 90 degrees different. So once I bought the mounts, tried to fit them, I realised they wasn't going to fit. I then had to re-drill the top 3 bolts 90 degrees round so that the slots in the top strut mountings ran the right direction. Out of 6mm mild steel, I made these adapter plates. These allowed the E90 suspension struts to bolt up to the E46 adjustable plates. As you can see, I drilled and tapped 2 rows of M6 bolts holes to allow them to bolt together. So up here you can see I've got the homemade adjustable suspension tops. These are adjustable to improve my camber, but more on them another day. And I'm not totally happy with those, so there's going to be some more. But for now, that's what we've run, and they've allowed me to run 3 degrees of camber on the front here, which was fine for running the slick tyres. Kind of what you need for slick tyres, I think. 3 degrees. Anti-roll. Sorry. Yeah. Strut brace on the top there. It's not the best in the world. I'm not totally happy with it. Well, thanks for watching this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you found the information in here useful. If you did, please like and subscribe if you possibly can. Next episode I think is going to be a recap of our very first track day with the old girl. See how she did putting it through her paces going around Blighton. Thanks everybody. Bye for now.